Hello, I am the Namekian, and welcome to my review of Eternal Sonata for the PS3 and Xbox 360. Now, this game has a lot of interesting ideas and game mechanics, but it just doesn't manage to live up to its potential. The story takes an interesting road, but fails to keep the gamer interested in it. Eternal Sonata is a JRPG developed by Tri Crescendo, who is probably best known for the Banten Kaitos games it co-developed with Monolith Soft. They are a fairly new developer, and I like what they are trying to do, but they missed out on what could have been a big hit with this game. The game came out in 2007 for the 360 and 2008 for the PS3, with a decent reception from both Japan and North America markets. But I think that is mostly due to the JRPG drought, which this generation of consoles is suffering from. The story for the game is something rare to the genre, and is broken up into several chapters. Our main protagonist is Frederick Chopin, and the story takes place in his mind while he suffers from an incurable illness, loosely following what happens to the actual pianist/composer of the same name. During the adventure in Chopin's dream, he becomes inspired by what happens, which leads him to wake up and write one more song before ultimately dying. In the game, the song is entitled Heaven's Mirror, which is similar to his real-life final work, Mazurek in F minor, and I apologize for any mispronunciations. Throughout the story, we are given details of his actual life along with sampling of his work. This doesn't flow very well in the game. I much rather have had this be something that gets revealed in a side quest or something instead of being bookends to the chapters. Now, for the story within the dream, it follows your typical JRPG formula. The people are being repressed, and it is up to a band of characters to set out and make things right. All of the characters' names are related to music terms, which fits nicely with the overall theme of the game. Graphically, the game looks very good. The cel-shaded models and environments are well done and accomplish what it needs to. Sprites are a little underwhelming though. They don't show any change when equipped with different weapons or armor, and expect the same lines and animations when entering and exiting a battle for the entire game. Environments, while nice to look at, has very little interaction with the player, and this includes NPCs that aren't important to the plot. Music is rather nice, but I can't give complete credit to the game for it, since most music is either original Chopin or a remix of a Chopin piece. The battle music is the same throughout the game, with minor differences when fighting a boss, and the music used for dungeons are rather short, so expect much in the way of looping. As far as voice acting goes, the English dub is rather bad.
Why? Why did it happen? Why was she destined to die? What crime could a girl like that have possibly committed to deserve such a grim fate? She was only 14. And during those brief 14 years, what did she do? Simply cherish a love of music, and revel in her girlish dreams. I'll never forget her. Even if the cruel passage of time should wear the threads of my memory so thin they break, I will always remember.
So once more, a new journey begins.
Emilia.
While not great, the Japanese voice acting is the better of the two options. Graphics and music can be forgiven in a JRPG. I mean, generally more time is spent doing everything else with this type of game. Sadly, the gameplay fails more than anything else in this game.
それを証拠にこんなに近くで暮らしているのに私には映らないじゃない。
私、病気で死ぬのが怖いわけじゃないの。ただ、みんなと仲良くできないことが悲しくて。
ポルカ。
Let's start with the world. Talk about a linear game. I am one of the few people that didn't like Final Fantasy VII. One of the biggest complaints I had with that game is the lack of exploration, both in the different areas and in the overworld. This game makes Final Fantasy VII look like Fallout 3 in comparison. In Eternal Sonata, there are only a few areas that are optional to go to, and the areas that you do go into are so small that it is difficult to not get all the chests sprinkled about. Some areas do require more backtracking than others when you do go down one way or another, but it is always evident where the chests are. In addition, these areas mostly only have one path to take from start to end. There are no side areas to explore, you will never be stuck or lost, even in towns, and you have really no freedom on where you go. Thankfully, the baddies aren't random encounters, but you will feel as if they actually were. If you play smart and take out all the baddies in the area that you are in, you should be able to play through the game without having to do much in the way of grinding, which is good. But you will be given many playable characters, and they level up much slower when not being used. So you may need to grind a little when you are sick of one player's battle abilities and animation and want to switch them out with another. There are two types of areas. There are your overworld areas that you travel to get to the next story point, and dungeons. Dungeons are a huge pain in the butt. They aren't challenging in a puzzle sense, and they make sure that it is difficult to avoid any of the mobs, which is a pain when heavy backtracking is involved. Add in the fact that the mob variety in the game is very small. Most of the baddies are just palette swaps of creatures you have already fought, and you will be just wanting the dungeon to end in record time. Now for the meat of the game, which is the battle system. This is what the majority of effort went into for the game. And to be fair, it has some good points to it. While it is a turn-based game, the combat is more active than your normal turn-based RPG. Character placement on the battlefield will determine how much damage they can do, what abilities they have, and how they can defend themselves when being attacked. The system works on a light-dark mechanic, where if the player or baddie is in the dark portions of the field, then they can transform or have access to different abilities. This can affect your battle strategy quite a bit, and character placement becomes important. For each combatant, there is a timer on how long that player has to move around and attack, and this timer counts down during an ability's use as well. Interesting feature, but there are some serious problems with it. First, the timer starts when your player moves or when you hit a button. The problem with this is that when your character is knocked down by a baddie and is the first person to attack, something you don't have control over, the timer will start as he stands up. You pretty much lose the turn at this point, all because he was the first in the rotation. Second, you have the ability to zoom the camera in and out, but you don't have the ability to rotate the camera. This is a problem for many reasons, but the biggest issue with this is range from the enemies. You can start attacking an enemy and miss because you couldn't tell if you were close enough to hit them. And by the time you stop attacking, move closer, and start attacking again, your time is practically over. Third, this includes item selection as well. As the game progresses, your number of usable items on the battlefield will increase quite a bit. However, when you scroll through them, it starts the timer. There are cases where you can't find and use the item fast enough for your turn. Yes, you can cycle through during the enemy attack, but there is something else during that time that you have to watch out for. You have the ability during the enemy attack to defend yourself. Unlike traditional JRPG games, this is an option you don't set during your turn. Here, it is a quick time event as you are getting attacked. From the sounds of it, this is actually a pretty handy feature. However, it doesn't work like you think it does. Obviously, you have to be facing the opponent in order to block. Fair enough. But even when you are facing the foe, the block option seems to be rather random. Sometimes it shows, sometimes it doesn't. Also, you have to hit it and hold it for each attack, making it difficult to make it work when the enemies are attacking you fast. Again, fair enough, you would expect blocking fast attacks to be harder than slow ones, but if you are pressing it or holding when they are done and it switches to one of your characters rather fast-like, it will start your timer because you are pressing a button. Okay, I get it. You don't want blocking to be easy, that I can understand. However, in a game where a normal mob can take you down when you have full health in one turn simply because you were unlucky not to get the block option, I consider this poorly implemented and or broken. There are many more problems with the battle system, but the final issue I am going to address is the settings. For each battle, you'll be taken into an arena to fight. They do a good job in mixing up the light and dark areas, but the arenas are just bland. You'll get rocks or something else in the maps to act as obstacles, but that is really the only change. The backgrounds and such will change depending on where you are when the fighting starts, but the size of the arena doesn't really change. Visually and musically, the battling system will get old in record time. Why couldn't they streamline combat into something like Chrono Trigger had? The maps and environments can't be that hardware intense that they need loading time to enter and exit battle. I hate harping on a game from a relatively young developer company with good ideas, but this game isn't going to be their big break-in hit. Clocking in at about 25 to 30 hours, the game is relatively short for a JRPG, but that could be a blessing in disguise because it is a chore to play through. I found it was difficult to sit down and play this game for any decent amount of time, and when I am playing, I am so disengaged in what is going on that I just want to hurry up and finish it instead of even trying for a 100% completion. I will give Tri Crescendo some credit with what they have attempted to do. I actually liked the concept of a more active turn-based system for combat, and I very much enjoy that you aren't some ragtag group of adventurers that ultimately save the world. Had they had more time to correct some of their design flaws, this could have been much better. There is a good game in here, it just doesn't quite work. This will not help quench your JRPG thirst, and I can't recommend this title. However, I would keep an eye on Tri Crescendo. They have the potential to come out with something great once they get their formula down. As always, thanks for watching this review, and God bless.